first landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazell was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO, and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left, and then down the river.
UFO classified. UFO classified. No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Well, happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I'm Erica Lukes, and always glad to be here on a Friday night and to get into chat and see my friends in there asking wonderful questions. Every day I get a message sent to me via UFOclassified.com or on my Facebook page, and you would not believe the information, the people reaching out to me with stories that are incredibly profound, stories that I want to share with you. And that is the reason I'm here, because each of us has had a personal experience that changes our life. We are all looking for answers, and I hope that UFO Classified is a place where you can turn to learn more about this information, about the startling field. Tonight, I am going to be talking about a place that is very near and dear to my heart, Skinwalker Ranch. But more than that, it highlights an area of subject, a place that I care very much about because I have lived here my entire life. I've lived in Salt Lake. When I first had my sightings over the Salt Lake Valley in 2013, it became very apparent to me that because we had such an accepting and kind culture, a very religious culture, that we didn't ask a lot of questions, but we should, because we are very close to some of the most top secret military installations in the world, such as Dugway. So as I began to research things, as I began to get involved with MUFON and become state director, I reached out and had people reach out to me, specifically people that live up in the Uinta Basin, which is home to Skinwalker Ranch. I came into contact with a fellow who told me he initially reported a sighting to me, and he said that he had seen very interesting objects over the oil fields where he was working. He told me about these sightings and said that it was commonplace, and that was something everyone would just look at and say, oh, there's the UFO again. They would turn the other way and go about their business. He also told me about his grandmother who grew up in the Vernal area, and he said that the grandmother was out one day, and was with her family, and they were rock hunting. And then the grandmother walked away, and they couldn't find her for hours. When they finally found her, she was disoriented and covered with radiation burns. They took her to the doctor, and the doctor verified the fact that she was, in fact, covered with radiation burns. I went up there and conducted a 2-day interview with the family, and it was absolutely incredible to sit down with this woman who was in her late 80s, to have her tell me about her abduction experiences that started when she was a child. She told me about being healed by these beings and about having significant amounts of missing time. One time she was taken with her family, and when they were returned, the milk that they had just purchased was moldy. The bread was moldy. So all of these things were very curious to her, and as she got older, she felt that whatever these beings were, they were there supporting her, they were healing her, but they definitely wanted to know what was in her blood. I have 2 days full of interviews that I will be sharing and that I've shared in some of my lectures. It's very powerful and profound. I also spoke with a second-generation cattle rancher up in the Roosevelt area who told me that it was common knowledge that these balls of light would come very close to the homes, sometimes entering the homes. He had a pet pony that was mutilated and many, many head of cattle, which is a huge loss for some of these people, were mutilated. And in one experience, when he found a mutilated cow, the Utah State vet came up and he asked the Utah State vet about this, and the vet said, yes, we don't know what this is. But it was confirmed at that time and in other research that I've done that the cattle mutilations were taken by the Utah State vet to a university here in Utah where they have been researched. And I contacted the Utah State vet. And of course, they acted like they had no knowledge of this. But it's very interesting. So there are all these pieces of the puzzle that fit into all of this. And no one knows better about that than my guest this evening, Ryan Skinner, who has been doing a tremendous amount of research for many, many years. He's written books about this and can tell us what happened with Bigelow when Bigelow bought the ranch. We heard stories that $22 million recently announced was given by the Pentagon to fund Robert Bigelow and his research at Skinwalker Ranch. But what else is going on? My guest this evening I just think he's a really cool guy. We've been talking for a few years now. And like I said, he's written several books. Ryan Skinner has an incredible website where you can go look at every picture about Skinwalker Ranch, read the players, all of these things involved. And Ryan, I just want to say I'm really grateful that you're here tonight because you have done such a tremendous job over the years. And before we came on the show, we were talking and you were saying that it's been very neat for you to see the fact that you put things out there a long, long time ago, and now these things are being validated, and that's great. So welcome.
Thank you for having me on the program. Pretty honored to actually be here.
I know, I can't believe it. It's incredible. But I know, and this is going to be good. So I wanted to talk to you about how you first got involved researching, and then when Skinwalker Ranch popped up on your radar.
What brought me all into the fold, or how I got tied into this?
Well, yeah, how you got, what drove you to start researching this, and then how did you become involved with Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah, I don't know if it was just a bizarre set of coincidences that drew me into this, or I don't know, or if it was predestined in some way, but I was driving with my soon-to-be wife, headed from Wisconsin to Las Vegas, actually, to get married. And almost roughly about 30 miles directly south of Skinwalker Ranch, she wasn't a citizen, so I was teaching her how to drive. We're on one of those desolate roads in between Colorado and Utah on I-70. And right behind the car, we have this ball of light chasing us almost the moment we get into Utah. Of course, Utah of all the states happens to be this paranormal hot zone. And she starts screaming. She starts complaining about some sort of light chasing us from the car. I have no idea what she's talking about. Eventually, I just asked her to pull over. At this point, my intention had nothing to do with UFOs or aliens or wherever this amazing journey is going to lead us. But I'm trying to find a very rational explanation for what's bothering her. And I get out of the car and I look behind me, and there's now a flare, what looks like a burning flare, a ball of plasma, or I don't know what it is, but it's sitting there hanging in the air in front of me. And I have no prior reference for what I'm looking at. I'm just absolutely in a state of shock, confusion, and I'm trying to understand what's in front of me. And as I'm doing this, I mean, my jaw is just to the floor. She suddenly screams that there's these three shadows coming towards her from the side of the road. And that snaps me out of it. I'd like to say that I'm some sort of brave investigator, but that was never, I was just trying to get to Vegas, and I just jumped in the car. She moved over the other seat, tore out of there. The light ends up chasing us. Long story short, well, actually, it is kind of an interesting story. We pull over at the first rest area we can find, and I'm laying on the horn. And all this is in my original book. I'm laying on the horn trying to get anybody awake, just so I don't want to be part of this abduction scenario. I just need as many eyeballs on me as possible if something does happen. And nobody responds. Nobody gets out of their cars. I'm not even seeing people in their vehicles. The light does take off, and I'm just in a state of panic. And oddly, she's actually kind of calm and says to me, isn't this kind of what you told me you've been looking for your whole life? And here it is right in front of you. And just, I'll never forget her saying that. It was like a moment of clarity. She was absolutely right. Unfortunately, because that was, going back there was the last place I wanted to go, and her logic was completely sound. So a couple other interesting things happened. We did go back there. Some interesting things did happen. But actually on the side of the road, as we're traveling back there, there's these vehicles, all these, every half mile to a couple miles, there'd be another car on the side of the road with all the car doors open. Yet you'd slow down, you'd look in the car, and there's nobody in the vehicle. Just to this day, I'm just absolutely confused what happened to us that night. I guess one of these balls of light, we eventually did see it. It was in the field. I did pull over. As we're sitting there, it was by the Books Cliff. It's from Utah. You might be familiar with that area, going towards Thompson. And as we see it on the cliffs, it comes down into the valley, starts floating or burning, I guess, its way a little bit closer to the vehicle. And I swear, in a blink of an eye, it goes from almost 300 feet away to directly in front of us, and starts materializing into these three translucent, pretty traditional-looking aliens right in front of us. And again, all that prior courage, Erica, that I thought I had built up earlier, I'm going to solve this mystery and all this chest beating. I was just a jellyfish again, and I took off down the road, and I didn't look back. But in effect, actually, I did look back, because once I finally got back to Wisconsin, I had to know. I called MUFON. I called, I think, some of the local paranormal groups in the area. Nobody got back to me. Nobody took up the case, so I took it upon myself to find out what is so unique about this area where this event happened. I mean, perhaps it happens all the time. And as I started researching, I came across this place called Skinwalker Ranch, again, directly 30 miles to the north. That kind of definitely caught my attention, and I started getting onto all the forums. I met a local through one of the forums who was near the ranch. I immediately flew out to meet with him, and the rest is kind of history. We discovered where the ranch was. At that time when the book came out, no one knew where the address of the ranch was, so it was a little hit or miss at first, but based on the level of activity that we found, we knew we were absolutely in the right spot, and as a result, kind of put the Skinwalker Ranch more in the public eye as far as where it's located.
And that was some researchers felt that wasn't good to get the address out there, but I mean,
definitely they felt that back then.
But I also, and I can understand that, but I don't think it's at the same point in time. This is a location. This whole area is incredibly active, and do we have the right to know or to understand this? I think it's, this is a frightening place for a lot of people that come into contact with these, whatever these entities are, this energy, these beings. And I know Junior Hicks, who began fielding, the research, all the calls from the local police department back in the 60s. I mean, he did a tremendous amount of service for the people that have been so traumatized by these events. And he really helped heal a community or give them a safe place. And we owe him, and I know you know about Junior, but we owe him a huge debt of gratitude for what he did. And he also has hundreds and hundreds of files that he's meticulously kept, which is wonderful because it, documents this area, and hopefully we can all have access to that and then really learn and move things forward. So, I mean, I commend you for putting this area, helping with Chris O'Brien and Zach Van Eck and many others to kind of put this area, out in the public eye, because it's an important area.
And I think this is a mystery that involves us all. And I think over the next few months, as Tom DeLong and crew keep making these bombshell announcements, it's all going to tie back to the ranch in some way. So I just don't feel this is some sort of secret privy to a select few, as I believe the ramifications affect all of us.
And I believe they do too. Well, and I think that's good because, for those of us, I mean, we're civilians, we've had profound experiences. We're all looking for answers, and you do turn to organizations like MUFON or whatever. And a lot of times, I mean, you don't even get a response. And so where do you go? You do exactly what you did, and you get out there and you start learning as much as you can and making contacts and trying to move things forward. And I think that's commendable, and every one of us should be doing that and playing our part.
Yeah, I agree. This is not a mystery that I can solve alone, or you can, or any one of us. Collectively, I think we all bring something to this mosaic of a puzzle. And I honestly believe potentially this year, or in the very near future, we are going to have some answers.
And that's going to be interesting.
Understanding.
I mean, we saw, and it's not just the Tom DeLonge to the Stars Academy, the big media event that took place, and then the subsequent New York Times article, but you go back a little bit further to last year, and you see the very important interview with Robert Bigelow on 60 Minutes, and right there he came out to the world, and when Laura Logan, the reporter, asked him, do you believe in aliens? Of course I do. Where are they? They're right here under our noses. And so that really was a pivotal moment, even if people don't remember that or don't want to take it seriously. That really was a coming out, so to speak. So you're right. This is going to be, we're going to see a lot of bombshells drop.
But when we have the Department of Defense validating that the government is actively invested in the research of this exotic technology and propulsion and vehicles, it takes it to a whole other level, in my opinion, as far as the mainstream public, what they can digest, other than some, possibly viewed as eccentric billionaire, his pastime hobby, which I think it might have been looked at prior to this.
Well, I think that it's interesting. He surrounds himself with such a great team of researchers. I mean, you have Hal Puthoff and Kit Green and all of the people that have worked with him, Alexander, people that really have had decades of experience and know the game. And it's been interesting to see on George Knapp on some of his interviews, who I have a lot of respect for, but for him to interview Harry Reid, and for Harry Reid, who came out and said that there is a very conservative group of people in the government that shut down funding. And that's important. And I've tried to stress that a lot on every show. And this is where I'm going to say again, Nick Redfern, Final Events, you've got to read that book. But it's interesting to see how all of these people are the same people that have been there from the beginning.
I agree. It's interesting to see how the public consciousness, I think, has evolved from where it was in the 60s to the 80s to the current mentality of we're just a lot more accepting of the topic, even to the point where I think no one's really questioning the fact that we spent $22 million, which really is a drop in the budget's bucket, but that we spent that on a program studying potentially what could be alien. Actually, people sound pretty supportive of it from what I've read and understand.
I think it's incredible, and I think we know that other countries are taking a much more interest in this, and they've allotted more funding to researching this topic, and I think we've fallen short in the United States of doing that, and that's not a good thing.
That's what we should talk about. I mean, there's a rationale behind it all too. I mean, not everyone's just trying to look for ET. Forget about him. I mean, there actually is tangible results that have been yielded from this study. So it's not $22 million that was thrown away by any means. There was a return on that investment. And as highlighted by the article, exotic alloys are being stored right now at Bigelow's compound and potentially other places such as Area 51 or who knows where. What those exotic alloys are, I mean, I have a few ideas, but this test actually has yielded some results, and that's fascinating to me. And I think that part of the article got overlooked a little bit.
I think it's interesting to see. I think a lot of what's taken place has been overlooked, and I think what we see, especially in the UFO community, are I don't know, I guess a bunch of egomaniacs who are incredibly short-sighted. It's like they're not, oh, this is about the money. This is about this or that, and they're not looking at the big picture. They're not really doing research and understanding what Puthoff and Green and many, many others have tried to overcome doing research. And so this has been a pretty trying time for them over the decades. And I have to say that for any of you who minimize what has just taken place, I think that's short-sighted and pretty foolish.
From what I'm hearing from some of my contacts is the information that's been released so far, that the article that just came out, that's only the tip of the iceberg for what's coming. So it's going to be a really exciting year this year.
I absolutely agree. And I like I said, for me, and if I can encourage any of you to not necessarily, don't, we spend so much time analyzing a video or doing this or that. But like I said, step back, look at the bigger picture. There is a bigger picture here, and it is very important. And there are many, many areas to research, and we need to get up on that pretty quickly, because like it or not, we are going to see some pretty interesting things take place. And we're going to get ready to go to break. But I want to say, if you are in the chat room, please ask questions. We have Ryan Skinner here, who has been researching the phenomena at Skinwalker Ranch since 2008. He has spent time in that area. He has a wonderful website where you can go, skinwalkerranch.org. And you can also find him on Facebook, where people in that area post interesting videos and sightings updates. So go there, get involved, and let's all solve the mystery together. As always, I'm happy to be here on Friday night. I'm Erica Lukes. We will catch you on the other side of the break.
Stand by. This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes. Erica Lukes. The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified. UFO Classified with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. The Voice of Spirit. Come join inspirational clairvoyant, medium, and psychic Leo Bonomo. As he connects you to the other side. The breathtaking 2-hour show will take you on a journey not just through the paranormal, but into the world of mediumship with world-renowned international guests, exploring a world of topics relating to anything spiritual.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just poor little me.
Live Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The Voice of Spirit, hosted by Leo Bonomo.
It is amazing, is it not?
Your connection to spirit is but a show away.
Bowl for Life is a non-profit organization founded in 2013 by Chuck Gardner with one simple goal: to grow the sport of bowling worldwide. Over the years, Bowl for Life has given out thousands of dollars in scholarships to youth bowlers around the world. Our focus is to nurture integrity, honesty, professionalism, as well as respect into bowlers both young and old. You can help us by going to bowlforlife.com. Even the smallest donation goes a long way to breaking down the barriers and helping us assist people of all ages to improve their skills as well as knowledge of the game. Bowl for Life is happy to be partnered with other great organizations like the Youth Education Services Fund, as well as the United States Bowling Congress, with many spectacular integrated events planned in the near future. To learn more, go to bowlforlife.com. That's bowlforlife.com.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
What if maintaining a healthy weight was as simple as drinking a cup of coffee? With Valentis Coffee, it's that easy. Harvested from the world's most pristine coffee farms and packed with the purest ingredients on earth, Valentis takes losing weight to a completely new level. At Valentis, we believe everyone deserves a chance to be healthy and fit. It's pure, natural, healthy, and delicious. Click the Valentis Healthiest Coffee banner on the KCOR Digital Radio Network website and take the Weight Loss Guarantee Challenge. Valentis Coffee, simply the world's healthiest coffee.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back and happy Fantopia Friday, my friends. I want to say thank you to my excellent producer, Tina Marie, and station owner of KCOR. This is the best network I have ever been on. I love it, and she really takes care of me and all of her hosts. I want to tell all of you I appreciate your support. I love doing my show, and I do this because of you. And so anytime you reach out to me, send me a message, get into chat, it really means a great deal to me. I hope that we can all be here for each other, and I hope the next year we are going to learn some fascinating things and hopefully come a step closer to answering some of the questions that we all have because we've had personal experiences. As you know, I am from Utah, and so this is my home. I care a lot about the state, and I've been researching every aspect of Utah for a long, long time. Dugway Proving Ground, which I will say, interestingly enough, I did spend the first year of my life living at Dugway, and that is quite interesting. I've had a lifetime full of interesting paranormal events and UFO experiences, like my guest this evening. If you want to learn more about Utah, I suggest that you order the Utah UFO Display, which was a book that was written by Dr. Frank Salisbury, who was a botanist and from Utah, a very devout Mormon. He worked with Junior Hicks, who lived up in the Uinta Basin, and they did a great book. And then, of course, Hunt for the Skinwalker. There's a new book that I just ordered. It's not new, but I have added this to my collection. It's called No Return, the Jerry Irwin story, UFO abduction or covert operation. So I'm going to be reading that and let you know about that. And then we also have Skinwalker Ranch, Path of the Skinwalker, Skinwalker Ranch, No Trespassing, that were written by my guest this evening, who has spent a lot of time researching Skinwalker Ranch. Ryan Skinner is here, and you can see him on the Sci-Fi Channel. He was on Jesse Ventura's Conspiracy Theory, which you can find on YouTube now. So Ryan, welcome back. You mentioned in the first segment about your experiences and what kind of put the hook in you and got you to really want to know what's going on here. And I do too, but when you got involved with Skinwalker Ranch and when you started going to the forums and learning how important this place was, give us more information about that and then what you began to become aware of when you were researching this.
What would you like to know? What I found through, because everything I learned was basically through George Knapp and Kelleher's book Hunt for the Skinwalker. And then whatever NIDS had published online at that time, and that was the extent. I mean, unfortunately, that was the end of the information. There was nothing else forthcoming. It's really, I guess,
and
up to me to get out there.
And that information that NIDS put out there for a brief moment is no longer available, right?
Correct. It's available on my website, but they did take it down.
You are so good.
I capture as much of it as I could.
Well, no, that's important because, and I when this first came out, and when Zach Van Eyck did that his series of articles for the Deseret News. He interviewed some of the people involved with NIDS, and they said that they were they would be publishing information about their research, which they have not done. So why do you think that is?
Well, I think for a time period, NIDS did publish publicly a lot of their research online, and I think the initial charter that Bigelow had set up was to share information, was to get other scientists and researchers involved in the project. At the same time, I think he was having liaisons with various factions of the government. And once he was able to met one of these sponsors, as he called them, that basically took NIDS and shut down the NIDS program, which then became BAS, Bigelow Advanced Aerospace Studies, Scientific Studies. And BAS had a completely different charter than NIDS, where it was more of a black hole of information, where they were gathering as much information as they could and passing it on to the government, as we now know with the AATIP program. So at that point, all information publicly was shut down, and I think Bigelow was just brimming with excitement for some of the things that he was learning. So he, little tidbits would come out every now and then whenever he'd do an interview about his own interest and experiences with the topic, what he could share, which was revealing, I think.
So what have you gleaned from what he has shared? And tell us, because it sounds like you've got more information than we do about what he's shared publicly over the years.
It's really more, if you could ask me a specific question, I would kind of answer it that way. I don't even know where to start.
I know. Then that's the hard thing. There's so much information here. But when Bigelow has made public statements, and he's made, to my knowledge, that just doesn't happen. But what have you gleaned?
You said earlier. Yeah, you said earlier he made the statement that something about life is already here. It's all around us, I think he said.
Mm-hmm.
He could possibly, most likely, be referring to, traditionally, when we think of aliens, I guess we probably think of people in spacesuits that get in rocket ships and fly from Zeta Reticuli to Earth, or however they do it. What he could be referring to is more of a Terran-type alien, or some sort of alternative life form that we're not familiar with. It really kind of shatters the whole ufology paradigm of what we view aliens as. I am now starting to stand a little bit more firmly and resolutely in the belief that what we might be dealing with is some sort of plasma or hydrogen-based precognitive intelligence, which again is not necessarily a flesh and blood kind of alien. I think those type of aliens are also on the ranch, but I think they're just as fascinated by what's going on out there as we are, and that is this whole completely separate event. So again, when Bigelow made that comment, I'm curious if he's referring to something right under our noses that we don't even realize is sentient to begin with, and all around us potentially.
Which I think the more I learn about this, the more personal experiences I have. It is. We have made the mistake in ufology. We've made so many of them, but that we try to separate UFO research or the paranormal or all of these things when it's all connected. And I know, you've had UFO sightings, and I'm sure you've had paranormal experiences as well, and they go hand in hand.
You can even mix in religion. Another way that we've looked at whatever these entities could be, this is just a theory. I have so many theories on this. I've been presented every one of them. This one just keeps pushing its way towards the forefront. We've called them the jinn. Through more Middle Eastern countries and religions have called these type of entities the jinn, or the smokeless fire, throughout history. They were supposedly created right before man was. A smokeless fire, or hydrogen-based or plasma-based life form, and then a carbon-based life form, or man, was created thereafter. And by who? I don't know. That delves into religion pretty deeply, but perhaps these things have been coexisting with us throughout time. Right now, someone's actually invested the money and put together the correct team of scientists and researchers to and taking the study actually seriously. And we're starting to get a few answers from that study. which is now beginning to leak to the public.
And that is so important. I mean, to know that what happened with the Tom DeLonge announcement, or Bigelow going on 60 Minutes, for that to become so public, and to me, in my opinion, I mean, it really did validate what many, many researchers have been trying to do for a long, long time. And for many of us who've had experiences, again, that gave that credibility, which is important. I mean, we've been so minimalized in all of this, and it's been sad for me to work with different researchers who have devoted 50 years or more to researching this, and to see how towards the end of their lives they're so disheartened because they don't feel like any of their research is going anywhere. They're not being taken seriously, and to see this breath of fresh air come into the study has been really a profound thing. And I know I think it's a good thing. So I'm excited. It is. It's really exciting. And so I have a question. Oh, sorry. I want to just quickly ask you. I have a question from one of my friends in chat, Amy Collins, and she wants to know, have there been any nice experiences at Skinwalker? And you and I both know that a majority of the time what we hear is negative. But have you heard of any specific stories where this is a positive experience?
Well, my own stories, but again, the jinn themselves were considered both harmful and beneficial to mankind. I mean, there's different clans and factions of them, if that's even what this is to begin with. But from my own experience, I am absolutely drawn to an almost obsessive state to going back to the ranch and the surrounding region. There is something very tranquil. I have never felt that sense of peace as I have just, I guess, almost meditating or just calmly letting my mind all the noise of the world around me, the normal busy life that I lead, all that just seems to fade away when I'm sitting on top of that mesa overlooking the ranch or wherever I might be in the local region. I have to attribute, there's almost an electricity to the air itself and euphoria just being in the region. I mean, being that close to the ranch. At the same time, it's an emotional roller coaster out there. It definitely seems to be able to manipulate human emotion, in my opinion. For what end, I have no idea. I've also been absolutely terrified to a state of panic before that felt absolutely artificial when one of these balls of light was coming towards me. But from what some of the locals told me, to really answer that question, what a local told me once, the best way they can equate it is what you put in is what you get out. So if you're putting in kind of good vibes out there, it almost, not only does it put out, it almost multiplies it, is how she explained it to me. So I guess I come in there with a good intention, a good heart, and it builds on that.
And I've heard that, and even when I went over to Norway, and I was with Erling Strand, who I just is my hero, he said, the same thing. And I think a lot of researchers who get in there and are doing significant field research, they say how important your mental attitude is. But then you hear the stories about the people that worked specifically on Skinwalker Ranch and how they would not go back to the ranch. And I'm sure you've heard that as well.
I'd probably caution it definitely does more psychological harm to people, both physical, as far as your health goes, and mental. So it's more of a point. It tests, what it does is it tests your character, and it will bring you to a point of some of the darkest place. It literally, whatever is out there is parasitic in nature, and it will follow you thousands of miles home and almost feed off of negativity in your life and really push you to some pretty dark places that you didn't even know existed in your own psyche. And if you're able to push through that and recognize it for the foreign presence that it is and the thought process that's not your own, I've personally found that I've become a much stronger person, and my life has dramatically changed for the positive, incredibly, a 180 from how I was feeling, from the depths that it brought me to. And I've heard this is a recurring theme from multiple investigators out there. to a point of depression, suicidal thoughts, financial, absolute devastation to their lives, poltergeist-like hauntings in their house, and even worse, the close proximity, the closer you are to these plasmoids, I guess, that are phasing in and out, I've now learned from sources that you have dramatically increased chances of cancer, thyroid problems, and cancer.
And autoimmune diseases as well. Arthritis, different things, and this is serious. And when I was state director for Utah MUFON, we had one case that came in particular, and I was really reticent to send my field investigator in there because I didn't feel that perhaps the field investigator had that understanding or that respect for what was taking place there. And so you have to make that judgment call. I mean, you do need to understand the risks, and it's very insidious. So I know for me, when I've been to, especially, to the Arizona site that we did some field research, I mean, that whatever that was, I truly felt did follow me. It affected the people I love, and that was a very trying time. But I know that you and I have talked personally about what the kind of the toll it took on you, and how depressed you became, and so did I. And I just think that's really fascinating.
We talked about that.
So with regard to some of the researchers that were involved with Bigelow saying that they wouldn't go back on the property, do you know specifically any more information about that, who they were, what happened?
I can't give details.
Okay.
You'd have to ask the question in a different way, I guess.
Okay. I got you.
I'm absolutely positive about the cancer problems is a very real thing that the government recognizes with the property and sees potentially as a national security threat. If you look into the resumes of the people involved in the project for BASS and AAPIP, which the resumes are public information, it's on LinkedIn. Several of them mention while their tenure with BASS that they are researching or actually investigating national security threats on the ranch in Utah. What are these threats? I mean, that is one of them. And how deep that rabbit hole goes, I don't even know.
So when you hear about the ranch and when you do research, and we've heard about in hotspots all over the world, not just the ranch, but about the underground noises, what have you heard, and what stories, what experiences have you had with the underground noises?
I love Skinwalker Ranch, and the reason I love it is you can almost name some common paranormal event that occurs throughout ufology or just paranormal in general, and it probably has occurred on the ranch. For me, I did have an experience, I think around 2006, with you could audibly hear and feel the vibration of the earth underneath you as if something was, my mind would be racing if something was digging or a minor earthquake, or I don't know, but you could hear a noise and a hum, and it was coming from the ground below us. Every time I go out there, I'm hoping and excited to hear that again and try to triangulate where it's coming from. It's typical of Skinwalker Ranch. The same phenomena typically does not replicate itself or manifest in the same way. So I have not had that happen again.
So some people would say, of course, the skeptical people, whatever, but they would, say that that's due to drilling or they're, yada, yada, yada. I mean, there are these long lists of ways that we try to, and of course it is important to rule out the obvious, the mundane. But I mean, what would you say to after you've experienced that? What would you say to the skeptic?
What would I tell a skeptic?
Or would you even tell him anything? Because it's.
The best thing you can do with a skeptic is to bring them with you to the ranch or the basin in general. The Uinta Basin is just a hotbed of activity, and it almost seems like the more skeptical you are, unless you're Joe Rogan, the higher the chance of you having an encounter will be. Related to the underground noises and vibration. What I did recently on the website is I wrote out a timeline. I'm getting so confused by all these different dates and whatnot. And from that timeline, I noticed I'm just trying to put together pieces, possible theories. I don't know if any of this is true or where it's going to lead to, but the construction of Bottle Hollow was constructed by the U.S. Army Corps, and when it was built is when activity on the ranch started to occur. Prior to that, the Myers, the previous owners, had no activity at all on the ranch. And their relatives, and I've interviewed and spoken with their family members, the actual owners are both deceased. They're adamant that nothing, absolutely nothing occurred there. In the 60s, from the 60s to the 80s, there was all sorts of events in the basin, but the ranch itself was actually very inert. But that all changed with the construction of Bottle Hollow, or at least the timeline. I don't know if there is an association. Suddenly, I think around 1992, I'd have to look at my own timeline. Like I said, that's why I wrote it out so I could refer to it. Roughly around then is when the Shermans acquired the ranch. I think it was maybe 1994, which also lines up. They actually drained Bottle Hollow is the reservoir right out there, right next to the ranch, by the way, for listeners that might not know. It's a little miniature lake that's man-made. And as they drained it, it took 2 years so that they could do repairs to whatever's going on there. They refilled it 2 years later, and that's roughly around the time when Terry and Gwen Sherman purchased the ranch, which, of course, as we know, activity went through the roof. So is there some sort of underground connection between the two? One lost story that I've always referred back to is the locals tell this story about being outside. It's some of the Ute natives that were out there were outside one night at Bottle Hollow, and a flying saucer or giant ball of light was being chased by, I think it was 3 helicopters and 1 jet, and it dove directly into the Bottle Hollow. It was being pursued. It dove down there. Obviously, the helicopters couldn't follow it, and it did not resurface. The helicopter circled around and eventually left the area. So,
and that is it's interesting. In Bottle Hollow, there have been some interesting deaths around that area, from what I understand, at the reservoir, and a lot of activity. And the activity with the black SUVs, with the unmarked helicopters. I mean, that's been something that we've heard about for a long, long time. And it's just, I would love
to find the witnesses and interview the witnesses and really hear the story being told firsthand.
Well, but you've got so much knowledge. You put yourself out there, and you have people that are contacting you and sharing information, which is great. That's what we have to do. Like I said, I just I love looking at your website. You have done so much work, and you have, a forum, maps, files, videos. You've got a list of the people involved and the entities, which I want to talk about. And I'm going to try to twist your arm to see if you'll come back on the next segment.
Sure.
I'm putting you on the spot. Yes.
I knew it was going to happen.
I know. Well,
before I even went into this, I know I'm going to have too much fun, and there's no way you're going to say no.
Yes. Okay, sweet. That's good, because I've got more questions for you, and I'm having a great time. This is important stuff. So I want to again I know, I love it. And so Ryan Skinner, thank you so much. Make sure that you go to skinwalkerranch.org and check out some of the photos. There's a really interesting photo that I also want to ask you about when we come back from break. I'm Erica Lukes here with UFO Classified. We will be back after the break.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.
Now, broadcasting in digital HD radio.
The disc landed at a ranch at Corona, New Mexico. The rancher turned it over to the Air Force. Rancher W.W. Brazil was the man who discovered the saucer.
What I thought was a star began coming in my direction at a very rapid rate of speed.
The unidentified object, which some sources thought might be a blimp, moved slowly down the Pacific coast from Santa Monica and disappeared south of Long Beach.
I saw a UFO and it went down the river, turned right at the United Nations, turned left and then down the river.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
No more plausible deniability. Fact, fiction, or the truth. You decide. And now, the new voice of the high desert, the hostess of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, and happy Fantopia Friday. I hope that all of you are enduring the weather. I know that the weather is very warm, and we have not received a lot of snow this winter, but some of you back east are not faring so well. So my thoughts are going out to you. I hope you are all safe and warm and can ride through all of this. I am talking tonight about a place that is very important to me, being a Utah native, and it is truly a place unlike any other in the world. We've got places that are hot spots, but I don't know if there is a place where you see all of the goings-ons, and perhaps in such a negative way that you do as you see at Skinwalker Ranch or in the Uinta Basin. Ryan Skinner is here, and he began researching the phenomena at the ranch in 2008 and has chronicled this in 2 books, which you can find on Amazon. He has spent weeks out there camping. He has done a tremendous amount on his website, which I will just say you've got to go there and visit the website. He has also received his bachelor's degree of science and also a minor in public speaking, or a major in public speaking, and then a minor in theater. That is so cool. It's very diverse. But you can look for Skinwalker Ranch, Path of the Skinwalker, and Skinwalker Ranch, No Trespassing. Ryan, welcome back. And when we left off, we were talking about some of the negative goings-ons that are the things that can affect you when you're doing field research and then carry over thousands of miles away. We were talking about the depression, financial devastation, hauntings, thoughts of suicide, and then also the fact that cancer rates, things like that in areas where you are typically seeing long-term phenomena like Skinwalker Ranch and other places. I mean, those are things that are being looked into. Underground sounds, Bottle Hollow, and we've covered so much. But let's continue with the Bottle Hollow, and then also the Native Americans, the Utes in the area being chased by the balls of light, being chased by helicopters.
Sounds good to me. Where would you like to start?
Oh boy. I mean, let's talk a little bit about, we have heard, and I've heard about people in the area seeing, the black Suburbans, the black unmarked vans that will come in and out of there, the unmarked helicopters that clearly are in a staging area, and they are doing things. And when Bigelow was there was, and this is a question that one of my people in chat was kind of referring to, there was mention in the book about a big portal opening up and then 2 beings stepping out of that portal. Now, I had heard, and I can't verify this, but this has been the rumblings of several people in the community, that these creatures stepped out and that there was some sort of weapons firing at them, and that both of these security guards were killed in the process. I mean, have you heard anything like that? I know we can't substantiate that, but...
Yeah, I've definitely heard that rumor. Really familiar with that. I was a part of spreading it at one point. So far, I'm not able to substantiate that at all. It was started by an Egyptian archaeologist who was working with the Bigelow team. I have no idea what she was researching or what her role was, but she confided to, I believe his name's Jack Safari, or I can't remember his name, but he's
Sephardi.
got some ties. That's it. He made the claim that she confided to him that people were actually killed by some sort of, that there was a firefight involved at the ranch, and I just don't want to encourage this rumor because I don't think it's true. And at one point I started pushing it. I think it's a dead end. But anyway, as the rumor goes, the guard was patrolling at night. As we're starting to become familiar with whatever these things are, they kind of phase in and phase out. And on this particular night, this thing, for whatever reason, accidentally phased in right almost in the guard's lap. And these guys are they're pretty nervous, obviously, and they're ex-military, coming back with the baggage that comes with being in war, some of the stress involved with that. So not meant to put them onto a haunted ranch where anything can happen. And this thing kind of falls in their lap. He, as the story goes, he immediately started firing on this thing with his pistol and was apparently killed by it. And then I believe sometime later that year, Bigelow made some sort of comments about that related to aliens or the paranormal, that there's actually a present danger related to these things. And I think his words got mixed in with this rumor, and it was almost like he was trying to substantiate how some people took that. And I am absolutely, to this point, unable to confirm it. And I've dug deep and I've asked various sources, and I don't think it's true.
Well, and it's interesting because that's a rumor that's been going around a lot, and you hear a lot of whether they're tall tales mixed in with fact. I mean, nobody will ever know unless all of the data is released, which we know is not going to happen. But it is, brings up you made a really good point about people who are employed as security guards or different people who are brought into these areas who don't have that training. I mean, nobody sits down with them and says, hey, this is what could happen. We're going to prepare you. Don't engage this with a firearm or, all of these things. And so you get into a situation and you're not fully prepared for it, which I don't know if you would ever fully be prepared for it. But I mean, wow, it's a tall order to put people in the line in that really dangerous situation. Not dangerous, but you know what I mean. There's so much going on, and you've experienced that firsthand.
At the end of the day, is it plausible? I mean, absolutely. We know from the book Hunt for the Skinwalker, Matt's book, that there was a bulletproof wolf that came onto the property. It attacked one of their cattle. They opened fire on it with several various caliber weapons. Chunks of flesh were falling off of it. The thing wouldn't die. It just kind of not even limped away, just as if it wasn't even affected. And I have heard whatever these creatures are, part of the team members out there studying this phenomenon call them undead wolves. They do not, I know this for a fact, they do not give off a heat signature. So that's kind of one of the telltale signs, I guess, if you have thermal with you, to differentiate just a regular animal that could be out in the area versus something very unique, obviously, is it's not going to give off heat and probably not very alive.
So, yeah, well, and I have to ask you because the questions are just pouring in the chat room, and so I want to make sure I get to some of these, but Bruce Cornett actually is in chat, who did work with Bigelow, but he wants to know if they actually have conducted a magnetic map survey of the ranch. Have you heard anything about that?
Also posted on my website, somebody did send me some sort of magnetic survey that they claimed. That was another one of those anonymous emails that I got. It is posted on my website under the photo section. I'm not a scientist or researcher. I'm just some guy with an opinion. I have no idea how to interpret it, but I felt it had merit, so it's forever immortalized on the website for others to look at and interpret. According to what it looks like, I mean, the the ranch house itself appears to be the epicenter of whatever was sent. I do know the basin itself has some unique magnetic anomaly to it. You can look at some sort of NASA satellite photos. I've posted them as well online. Honestly, I don't know how to interpret that as well. I leave that for others to educate me on.
And I think there's so much to know. I mean, it is important, and it would be wonderful to have somebody that, a scientist come out and say, okay, this is what this is, and da 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 da, and all of those things. I think they've done a great job with that in Heshtal, and they've been very forthright.
We could discuss this in more of an open, collective environment. If we can all pool our resources together instead of this select group, I really feel we get to the answers that much quicker.
Well, I think, though, and that brings up another great point. You look at Tom DeLonge's new project with everyone. I mean, they are asking for the public to submit information, so they understand that they need the public. They need the stories from all of us for them to get more information to research this. So, you would say, in turn, what will we get from you? What information will we get? So there has to be some sort of return on investment there.
Reciprocate, sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So, yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what happens. But Patty also wanted me to touch again on.
What other questions do you have?
So, as far as the negative experiences that you've had when you have been out in this area, you mentioned that you came home or whatever this was really pushing you and making you a stronger person. But can you go into more detail on specifically what happened?
I can talk about myself or two other researchers this has also happened to. I guess
all of the above would be great.
Okay. It's one thing that sets me a little bit apart. I try to be as raw and open, honest as I possibly can be about this. And I really don't want my ego on the line or anything else. I really, altruistically, I want to just get this story out there and that we all somehow contribute towards this, even if it humiliates me in some ways, which this probably will. If whatever it was definitely came home with me. 4 a.m, my doorbell would ring. I'd wake up out of bed, I'd open the door, no one would be there. I could hear, I live alone, or at that time I lived alone. I could hear someone walking through my house at night. I'd get up. And instead of trying to find out who it is, I'd lock my bedroom door because I didn't want to find out. And I knew it was related. This has happened multiple. Every time I go out there, these type of things happen for at least the first week to 2 weeks. So again, the poltergeist activity, and then followed by just, again, it's not just myself, so it's not just my own story. I have 3 other very close friends who have experienced exactly the same thing, followed by a numbness, if not a sadness, a foreign feeling of loss, I guess, and lack of self-worth, which it's actually pretty foreign to me. But I've kind of had a healthy outlook in life in general. That is progressively goes into a financial loss. So it has an emotional component that somehow actually, for me and for others, affects you in a tangible, meaningful way, which is your pocketbook sometimes. For the first time, I was a very successful business owner prior to all this, and it brought me to a state where after 15 years of being in business and having tried I bought other field businesses and I turned them around for profit. And finally, for the first time ever, I was slowly going bankrupt. And all of this, I went through my divorce, the financial loss. Despite it all, I always me as a person, I just always try to persevere and push through. And I think life is nasty and tough. It's hard for us all, and I just really want to see it to the end. But I got to a point where I had thought of different ways of committing suicide. It really am hard to say that to anybody, much less over a program.
No, but that's important. And I commend you for your bravery to do that, because I mean you're not alone. I mean, those are feelings that I have felt as well when I've come back from doing field research, and that's
not
important.
just my ego speaking, though. What helped me through it was realizing this is not me. This isn't even how I feel. To differentiate that this is a part of the effect of coming back. I brought this back with me, and once I kind of realized that and built off that, I became a stronger person. Financially, I am better than I've ever been in my entire life. I'm happier than I've ever been. I think the whole plan, it really tests your mettle as a person, as a part of whatever this ranch, I don't know, experiment is out there from their side, whoever they are. And I think you have a similar story.
Oh yeah, I mean I mean, my gosh, you and I both are very similar in the same way we approach things, and we both have a lot of zeal. And it's like, okay, we've had these experiences. Now we're going to go out there and stare it in the face and try to figure out what in the crap this is. And we've had, I think, some pretty profound experiences, some frightening, some exciting experiences. And you have said this, I've heard you talk about the fact you get this adrenaline rush, and yeah, you do. I mean, you're out there in the unknown, and I will never ever forget being in Norway, out in the middle of this area that's one of the hottest locations on the planet, and stepping away from the two people I was with in the freezing cold, and knowing with every ounce of my being that there was something there. It was so profound, but yet that was such a beautiful experience. I mean, that wasn't a negative thing. It was very, like you say, just kind of calming, and overpowering and overwhelming. And, then you come back to reality, and you do bring some of this, whatever this is, back with you. I'm not sure. I mean, do you feel perhaps some of this is not necessarily related to the phenomena? Do you feel that maybe there could be some sort of something else there that is causing these effects?
I personally feel it's absolutely directly related to the phenomena, without question. And that's also been confirmed to me by some of the sources that I've been speaking with as well, that there is a relation between, I don't know about the economic side or how that works, but on the emotional side, there is a tie between whatever's going on out there and how it affects the human psyche and health. There's an absolute negative impact. I mean, why would anyone want to go to this place? But for me, there's a lot of unanswered questions still. And if anything, it has actually made me a stronger person from it. So,
it forces you. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it forces you. It tests your mettle. You're either going to break or you're going to bounce back even stronger. It's like a callus on your hand, just that much tougher from the experience. But two other researchers, one of my, a story that really impacts me when I think about this is another local researcher in the area went out there by himself to the ranch, and started, as he's walking around, I believe it was, who cares, near the ranch, I don't want to give any details, a ball of light approached him, one of these typical plasma balls of light, and he described it as, I think he started running from it. It chased him, and he said it hit him in the back. And I said, oh my God, what did that feel like? That's amazing. I mean, were you electrocuted? Did it hurt? He said it felt like a warm balloon, like someone threw a water balloon. And this is someone I trust a lot. Someone threw a water balloon of warm water. It just shrugged it off, didn't think anything more of it. Whatever the light was, after it passed through him, it dissipated. It did not come back. Obviously that's a pretty shocking event to happen, but he went home immediately after that to kind of calm down. And he said for the next 2 weeks, just went through the worst depression of his life immediately after that. So that was another example. I have another maybe we all have one of these kind of, I have a really emotionally neutral friend who this guy is almost like, I think there's that Asperger's disease. He just doesn't display any emotions, happy, sad. He's very robotic. And I took him to the ranch. And definitely one of my skeptics skeptical friends who I quickly converted based on his own experience. We witnessed one of these, one of these plasmoid things started chasing us through the desert. Actually, a lot more interesting things. I'll tell you those stories later. But the point was, when he came back home here to Wisconsin, he said he told me he cried. And this is someone, I don't even know if he knows how to cry. And he said that too. And he immediately recognized that something was wrong with him, that he's never felt. He didn't know why he was crying. He said it felt as if he had lost something or someone had died that was very close to him. And he told me, I didn't encourage him or plant the idea in his head or seed him, that he immediately told me, I think this is related to what happened to us at the ranch. I said, yeah, that's all a part of it. So.
Well, and you say that, and I was lecturing at ECETI Ranch and speaking at a conference there, and I mean that's one of the things that the people that were at the ranch said, that you come into this place, which is a well-known, that whole area close to the Yakima Indian Reservation. I mean, again, that's another hotspot that has been looked at by world-renowned researchers, but it was said, through this group of people, that when you come into this area, that you, good, bad, or ugly, it's all going to come to the surface.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah, it breaks you down to your raw emotional components really quickly, which got to make you wonder if it has a spiritual connection, or it just brings more questions than it does answers in a way.
It doesn't. I mean, I think for me, I've always had a very strong spiritual belief. I've always believed that there is a higher power, or there is something there that is benevolent, that has played a very important part of my life. So I've always been spiritual in that regard, but my Lord, this really does call into question. It shakes you to your core, and it really, when you find yourself in times where you're grappling with these emotions that are not yours, you do have to find some sort of spiritual solace.
Well said.
Well, it's a trip. And I think both you and I have shared things that we have not shared before. So I'm Erica Lukes here with Brian Skinner. We are going to take a break. We will be right back.
Stand by.
This is UFO Classified with Erica Lukes.
Erica Lukes.
The phone lines are open now at 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio. More UFO Classified.
UFO Classified
with Erica Lukes on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. After this.
Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, the voice of spirit. Come join inspirational clairvoyant, medium, and psychic Leo Bonomo. As he connects you to the other side. The breathtaking 2-hour show will take you on a journey not just through the paranormal, but into the world of mediumship with world-renowned international guests, exploring a world of topics relating to anything spiritual.
You're ready to wake up, you're going to wake up. And if you're not ready, you're going to stay pretending that you're just poor little me.
Live Thursday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The Voice of Spirit, hosted by Leo Bonomo.
It is amazing, is it not?
Your connection to spirit is but a show away. This is the world-famous KCOR.
That's the only station I listen to.
Looking for a radio show like no other?
We need something brand new.
Then tune into the KCOR Digital Radio Network, Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and get ready for The Quantum Shift. A great shift of consciousness is sweeping across the Earth. Are you ready for the dimensional shift?
It is amazing, is it not?
The Quantum Shift.
Hosted by Dr. Sam Muggsy, Kent Dunn, and Drake Bailey.
Be part of the fifth dimensional reality, where consciousness prevails and the universal law of one is the only true reality. The Quantum Shift. Live Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific. Jump onto the Celestial Highway and travel at the speed of light. Into hyperspace. Hyperspace. Hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. She navigates you through the cosmic tides of mysticism into the world of covert technology, UFOs, mystical sciences, and the world of unforeseen forces.
You get to really sort of enjoy a bizarre ride.
Listen live, Friday night, 9 p.m. Pacific, for Hyperspace, the one show that blows the whistle off our government black ops projects. Hyperspace, hosted by Solaris Blue Raven. Exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
Wanna take a ride?
When you look to the stars, what do you see?
For this thing just to do what it did, there's nothing that we know of. Not drone aircraft, not anything that has this type of performance capability.
Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Join Misha Johnston, Mary Munoz, and Hannah Thorson for Starseed Awakening. You'll hear first-hand accounts from Misha, Mary Munoz, and Hannah Thorson, as well as from an array of experienced guests, what it's like to be contacted by numerous extraterrestrial groups.
You know, I'm thinking that a lot of the terror and a lot of the fear that I was reacting with and the pain I was experiencing had nothing to do with anything that was being inflicted on me, and it was just sort of an accident of circumstance.
We'll explore the world of our shadow government and their involvement with black ops, such as MyLabs, MK Ultra, and other trauma-based mind control projects.
And when I was pulled out of my motel room in the middle of the night to go out there, those of us that were taken out there were taken at gunpoint. And I think that it was to immediately impress upon us that we were being taken in a special way to a special place for a special operation.
Starseed Awakening with Misha Johnston, Mary Munoz, and Hannah Thorson. There's no missing time here, just illuminating conversation.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Starseed Awakening, Saturdays at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, only on the KCOR Digital Radio Network.
You're listening to
UFO Classified with Erica Lukes, where the truth isn't hidden beneath the black lines of a Sharpie.
That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
To be on with Erica, call 702-425-9230. That's 702-425-9230. Worldwide callers use Skype name KCOR Radio.
Radio contact.
Share your thoughts on the show on Twitter by using hashtag KCOR. Or head over to the live chats at KCORradio.com.
The audience goes nuts.
And now, your host of UFO Classified.
Are you ready?
Erica Lukes.
Welcome back, and I cannot believe how quickly time flies when you are talking about something you're so passionate about. Skinwalker Ranch, Utah, all of these things are so important to me, and the fact that we can share information, and we have to share information to figure out what's going on. My guest this evening has been really getting information out about Skinwalker Ranch, and he's been pretty fearless about doing that. He gets photos, and I want to ask you before I forget about this, you on the Facebook page released a photo that was taken inside of the Bigelow, the compound at Skinwalker Ranch, and there were plant samples. Can you tell me a little bit about that, Ryan? Or is the photo just the photo says it all?
What would you like to know?
Well,
you almost know as much as I do on that. But I think the photo itself is somewhat self-explanatory. Do you want me to describe what the photo?
Yes, describe what the photo is, and then make sure all of you go to the Facebook page for Skinwalker Ranch.
I'm not going to say anything in regards to the origination of the photo. However, the photo is a picture of what appears to be some sort of scientific method of studying the biological effects of whatever is on the ranch on biological life. What they had done is planted it, looks like soybeans. They planted it in the ranch house, and then they also planted another sample in Las Vegas at the Bigelow compound. And then progressively, they would take pictures once a week of the two samples. And of course, by week one, I mean, unsurprising to me, the sample over at Bigelow's compound was growing green, lush soybean plants. And then, of course, you transition to the Skinwalker Ranch sample, and it's just dirt with a few that are trying to bud. Week two, the same thing. Actually, some of the ones that were trying to bud now look like they're shriveled and dying, and it's becoming a little forest over at Bigelow's compound. And it should be, as the same sample should be in their experiments at the Skinwalker Ranch. So I guess they're demonstrating that there is an adverse effect on biological life based on this result, based on this test. And I found that to be fascinating, and I wanted to share that.
No, thank you for sharing that. I saw that you posted that the other day, and I was just it was pretty telling to me.
And doing that to the plants, what is it doing to the locals around the ranch and people on the ranch? It begs the question of how is this affecting us, and is it just the locals, or does this affect all of this on some sort of scale? Are there other Skinwalker ranches across the nation? Perhaps that effect may be what the government's studying. I have no idea, honestly.
Well, and it's interesting, and you go down so many rabbit holes, and you can become frightened or obsessed with all of this. But we've had some pretty candid conversation this evening, and with the real effects that this can have on you, and how this does manipulate you and play with your psyche, and it tests what you are as a human being. And this is difficult. I want to just, for people that are out there listening that don't really understand this, and I remember being in my 20s and not taking this seriously, play with a Ouija board or go out there and try to goad whatever this was. I mean, this is really, really serious, and you don't understand how insidious it is until you begin interacting with it and you see some of the things that come along with that. And I know that even John Keel, when he was doing all of his groundbreaking research, I mean, he talked about that on many occasions in his books. When you start engaging this, things happen, and you need to be prepared for that.
Wish I could find a ranch that promotes health and happiness. Maybe that'll be my next quest out there.
Well, I think that it's interesting. And when we look at Skinwalker, I mean, what do you think? Why is Skinwalker notoriously negative? Is it because perhaps the government or different
I don't know. Is this
people
all a side
were they
effect of whatever's going on? Is it intentional? Is whatever it is it causing these effects to haunt mankind? Or is it just, again, some sort of cursory side effect of the phenomena as it materializes onto our plane? And I think it might be the latter. Would make more sense to me. Also, of real interest is the ozone pollution in the basin, both in Vernal and Roosevelt. Those are the two large cities, I guess. The pollution out there is more intense and worse than it is in LA, out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, right there in Utah. And right in between those two cities I just mentioned is Skinwalker Ranch. So what is going on? I don't know.
What do you think? I mean, what does your gut tell you? I mean, is this something extraterrestrial, interdimensional? Is it a host of all sorts of things? Is this demonic? I mean, there's so many places we can go, and anytime you turn on a radio show or look at TV, I mean, you've got a researcher that's taking you down a different direction, but intuitively, what does your gut tell you?
What do I rationalize it at? My gut tells me it's something spiritual, and that's, I hate giving that answer. I'm not trying to preach or promote religion or anything. It feels to me as if it's something spiritual. And when I say spiritual, I don't necessarily mean any one religion. When we say spiritual, we're referring to something that is so far beyond the human comprehension and understanding and what we have to refer to. It's outside of that realm. It's outside of time, outside of space. We have nothing to fall back on. So we, throughout the ages have called it something spiritual. Perhaps in time and through the research that the government's conducting, we can give it more of a finite label. But that is definitely what I feel gut-wise. Rationally, I feel it's some sort of, again, precognitive ball lightning, plasma-based life form that we don't understand yet. And perhaps it's been here for a very long time. Why it chooses that area, there's a lot of theories to that as well. I'm familiar with all the theories. We recently hosted I posted all the top 10 theories that people have thrown at me over the years. I hosted it on the Facebook page, and what came up number one, because I'm just another person. I just have my own theory. I don't know if I'm right. I'd rather collectively hear everyone's theory. And where the polling ended up at is people feel it's something dimensional or related to the Native American folklore.
And that, so I mean, with the Skinwalkers and all the sightings there, do you think that whatever this is has the ability to manipulate our belief systems, our thought processes, and manifest clearly in ways that we are, I mean, you take the Skinwalker, I mean, people have heard about that. They're terrified by them. Do you think it's all the same type of thing all over the world?
I think to some degree we have what we believe to be free will, but we're also dealing with, when I say precognitive intelligence, I mean, it knows what you're thinking. I didn't come up with that term. I think Colonel Alexander came up with that to describe what was going on at the ranch. And obviously he has a lot more inside information and understanding through all the research, theoretical scientists that are working directly underneath him at that time to come up with that term. And I myself have experienced that as well. So you're dealing with something that can it's demonstrated on me, it can manipulate emotions, and according to Colonel Alexander, it can read your minds. And I've seen that effect as well through it. So that's kind of a dangerous combination as far as is it weaving the tapestry of humanity and where we're going to be going next, and how is it influencing us? And again, that's where I kind of backtrack into it's almost something spiritual at this point, if I'm trying to put a label on it, much more than just some sort of space traveler.
Right.
But
absolutely, and I absolutely agree. But then you hear, I mean, and I've had people on the show that are part of, they're the ET contact groups like Costa Macraeus, who I absolutely love and adore, and it is, he feels that he is making contact with something very benevolent and something that is trying to steer us in the right direction. And so for me personally, I mean, I believe that there is that as well. What are your thoughts?
Any advanced civilization, I mean, it really, I guess I should backtrack myself. It could be ET, because anything that far advanced, what do they say, technology that far advanced is indistinguishable from magic. So these could be, I don't even want to see it. I mean, these could be godlike entities to us based on their level of technology, advancement, enlightenment. I don't know.
And I think, in all likelihood, there's so many different things going on. And like you say, it's like what do you choose to interact with, and where do you find an anchor? And after you have these profound experiences, how do you boost yourself up when you're kind of, this is thrown in your face?
Again, it's whatever's out there tests each person as an individual and the merit of of your spirit as a person. But I want to say too that this is not just stories and experiences and something intangible. It is something very tangible. I want to point that out. So getting away from the spiritual, there is actually objects that were recovered on the ranch and at other locations that are being housed right now at Bigelow's aerospace company. So whatever this is, it is something very real that people are actually holding and studying and just as fascinated as we are, most likely.
Well, I hope so. And I hope that the government would throw more funding, would direct more funding to researching this. And to, like everybody says, 22 million was absolutely nothing. And you're right, it is absolutely nothing. There needs to be much more put into this research. But with that said, I believe that the research at some point in time, parts of that need to be put out there in the public. And hopefully that's what Tom DeLonge and Luis Elizondo and Colm Kelleher and Hal Puthoff, I hope that that's what they're all trying to do. I believe that they are trying to disseminate information out there. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens, especially when you've got this other faction, this conservative faction that is trying to stop funding and trying to discourage people from looking at this because they feel it is perhaps a demonic thing.
Yeah, I guess comments like my own, calling it a spiritual thing, actually prevents us from digging deeper into it. I think Tom himself even brought that point up, that people, or not Tom, but Lewis brought that point up, that people inside Congress actually were pushing back against this for religious objection against this type of study, which I think that's...
And that is, I mean,
terrible.
To me, that is shocking and disturbing, and especially when I mentioned earlier in the first hour that you see that the Russians, that every other government on the planet is dedicating resources to researching this, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, whether these governments want to, or these researchers want to harness the technology and utilize it against their adversaries, which is in all likelihood probably what's taking place. There's
taking religion completely out of the equation. I mean, they're holding on to whatever these things are. They leave behind trace evidence, as we now know. We don't know what that evidence is. However, if you did enough digging, like I've tried to do, George Knapp in the late 80s was commissioned by Bigelow to go to Russia. I mean, Bigelow, even in the 80s, was looking for these types of objects. He went to Russia. He went to a crash. Actually, I'm sorry, I think it was in the 90s. Went to Russia. There was a crash site on Hill 611, I believe in 1989. From that crash site, there was actual alloys, slag, metals were left behind from this supposed UFO that had burned up on this spot. He was able to purchase this material from some of the local scientists and authorities there. This is, I think, around the time when the Soviet Union had begun to collapse. Brought it back to America, and that's, I think, what kicked off this entire study and got Bigelow really interested in this. According to the scientists, the Russian scientists, this is the information we do have about that material that Bigelow does have. One of many items that he had, from what I'm starting to learn. But this one's out in the public domain, so this is not classified. I'm not revealing some big secret, but everyone seems to have glossed over this story. It came back with these red spheres. And I guess when the Russian scientists had bombarded the spheres with protons or put it in some sort of gas chamber, they found the elements to change from one composition, from one element, into a completely different one for no reason. It just completely changed into a completely different. And I guess they were flabbergasted how this is possible. Not only that, they said they were looking at it under an electron microscope. And again, I'm not a scientist, but they were looking at some sort of the actual electrons, they were looking at the object itself, and parts of it would vanish right in front of their eyes and then dematerialize, rematerialize. The object itself would absorb radar. So now we're dealing with a material that, has clear military application. So taking the whole religious context completely out of the equation, we know for a fact that Bigelow's holding something that Russian scientists claim, at the very least, can materialize, can become invisible, rematerialize, have completely different properties, and more importantly, can absorb radar. The military. This would give us a massive advantage over any of our enemies. So, who cares who made it, where it came from? I mean, the bottom line is there's an absolute application for this. It's tangible evidence. And I understand bits of it can even be seen in Vegas at the Atomic Museum. But I think that's just the charred pieces. I think the actual metals, which I have photographs of, I think they're on my website. That's one of the items that's being housed that the article was referring to for exotic alloys. Another one might be from Joseph Jr. Hicks, that he recovered on the property before NIDS and the crew came out there. He recovered these metal rods, not metal, we don't know what they are, sort of glassy rods, roughly about 2 feet long, which he took off the property. He brought them back to his shop. He tried cutting them. He tried burning them. He tried chipping them, hitting them with a sledgehammer. He could not damage everything he tried. He couldn't break off even a sliver of it or scratch the surface. So eventually he took a propane or acetylene torch, tried heating up the object. It glowed red hot, whatever this thing was. And he accidentally, in the process of heating it up, accidentally bumped into it, the hot side, which actually hit his skin. And he told me, I interviewed him 4 or 5 years ago. He said it was cold to the touch, whatever this object was that he had. He then put a multimeter to it and was getting an active current. This thing was actually giving off energy as if it was some sort of battery on its own. So of course, when NIDS came on site, this was retrieved off of the ranch, given to him by, when he was out there investigating, when Terry Sherman owned it at that time period. He brought the materials to NIDS. NIDS put it under a microscope, and that's the end of that story. We don't know where the object is.
And from what I understand, though, that the information, whatever NIDS found, wasn't given. Junior never heard about that. The results.
Yeah, he wasn't returned. He asked for the object back. They wouldn't give it back. He was told, the scientists, they told him two interesting things, and both of them contradict each other. One of the scientists said that he had worked at Area 51, and that whatever Junior had discovered was actually element 115, which I don't know. I just have a hard time believing that. But that's what he was told, and why he was told that, we don't know. And, you may have heard that yourself. James Carrion revealed that interaction. So.
Well, and we didn't even touch on the MUFON Bigelow connection. And yes, there is. And, I mean, and that's another story. I mean, as we know, MUFON's information can be bought and sold, and that's the way it rolls. So, again, where does the information go that all of these wonderful human beings put a lot of time into researching and getting out there? I think that's something important, and we'll just leave it on that cliffhanger. But Ryan, where are you speaking next? What are you doing? Anything good?
I'm working on possibly a few TV projects. But the biggest thing I'm interested in is just following this very fluid and dynamic situation with the ranch, Tom DeLong. Not only Tom, but we also have Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. They're releasing their own information for a documentary I'm very excited about. It's really an exciting year. So I want to.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I know I want to thank you so much. This has been one of the best shows I've ever done. You can find Ryan Skinner. Go to skinwalkerranch.org. Make sure you follow his work. Go look at some of the photos on there because they're curious and we didn't even get a chance to touch on those. But thank you, Ryan. I want to thank all of my listeners from all over the world. Please make sure that you get the message out about UFO Classified. I'm here for you. I'm doing this for you. We are all here because we want answers, and we're in this together. So I hope you have a wonderful 2018. I will catch you next week, and I will make sure I post links to Ryan's research and his new findings. Be safe and stick around for a great night on KCOR. Tina Marie will be coming up with Restricted Airspace. I will see you next week.
Listen very carefully.
This is Houston. Say again, please. Houston, we've had a problem.
This is UFO Classified, live every Friday night, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on the KCOR Digital Radio Network. The truth is out there, just waiting to be discovered.
And now, if you will, accompany me on a journey to the future.
For more information on the host of UFO Classified, Erica Lukes, upcoming guests, as well as links to the past shows,
visit her website at ufoclassified.com.
UFO Classified.
UFO Classified.
This is KCOR Las Vegas, home of the Digital Radio Network, broadcasting from a shack just south of Area 51.
Wait, that doesn't exist.
This is the KCOR Digital Radio Network. Now for the news.